you could say briefly, how do you think HIV and AIDS is different for women in South Africa and to men in South Africa?
I think,
stigma or?
well, I think one of the things that a lot of people, the general public, I would say, is not aware of is that HIV affects women more than it does men. Not just in South Africa, but globally, because we are more likely to get infected. More than 50% more likely to be infected by HIV than our male counterparts. And I think that's really, it's such an issue, and it's also something that we should really dig deeper into and kind of look at from a somewhat feminist lens, if I may say. I'm a feminist, so I believe everything should have a feminist take to it. But I think it definitely affects women in a different way, because at the same time, as much as we're the most vulnerable to HIV, we're just the most vulnerable in society. One of the things I'm always thinking about now that I'm getting older is, how would I want my future daughter? You know, how do I want the world to treat her? And is she safe? Because we're more susceptible to rape, we're more susceptible to getting infected with HIV. And these are things that we really need to discuss, and I don't think we discuss enough. We're more susceptible to gender-based violence. And all of these are contributors to getting infected with HIV and AIDS. And I think that once we deal with the social issues where males aren't pushed, and I mean, as much as we want to talk about gender equality or inequality, we should really look at the fact that men themselves are a product of society too. They're also just part of the system. And at the end of the day, the reason why a man is a man and woman is woman is because society has predetermined and said, because you're a man, you should walk this way, talk this way, act this way, and that translates in the bigger context into how you relate to women. So exerting kind of your control over a woman because you're told that men should be strong, men do not cry, men are providers, and that's such a big issue that we need to discuss, and we need to realize that men are also victims at the end of the day. And we need to kind of reach a point where we say, let's be women and let's be men, and there's kind of a gray scale, right, of sexuality and sexual identity and of kind of gender norms. And once we reach a middle gray scale where everyone can operate in a space of feeling comfortable and being able to be whatever you want to be and create your individual self, your self-identity, I think that's when we can kind of get over the hurdle of HIV affecting women the most, more than men. Because then women will be able to say to a guy, listen, we should use a condom, and not feel scared because maybe this guy will beat me up, or maybe this guy will exert some sort of male bravado and want to, I don't know, whatever. There's so many instances that I've heard of, for instance, in my line of work, where people have said, I don't want to tell my boyfriend about my HIV status, even though I'm HIV positive, and I really don't want to infect my boyfriend. I don't want to tell him because I'm scared, firstly, that he might hit me. I'm also scared because he might leave me. Because he doesn't understand, first of all, and also secondly, because, like I said, he's a result of a society which says to him, you have to be strong, you have to be the one in control, you have to do certain things which show that you're a man. And I think we should do away with that. Like, when people say, oh, you act like such a girl, oh my gosh, you act like such a guy, you should just be, you know. And I think we need to reach that point, and I think it's going to take some time, but certainly I think it's attainable.
I also think that with women, like a lot of things cause us to like infect other people in our lives, like our children, for example. Because like I know a person that gave birth to a child, and then like she discovered that she's HIV positive, but she couldn't tell her husband. And she told the husband that, look, we need to go to the clinic for some tests. And then the guy was like, if you go to the clinic and you're negative, then I know that I'm also negative. And then, like, because she was afraid of what the husband would think, she didn't tell the husband that she's HIV positive. And then she continued breastfeeding the child even beyond the right limit. And then the child is now HIV positive because of that. And I think that's what really affects our community.
Hey.
So I watched this other video that I think a lot of people saw, and it's this other girl. She's a YouTuber, and she was talking about how her boyfriend has the right to beat her up because it's her fault, and how she isn't supposed to be looking at other guys, but he can appreciate other women, and how it's her fault whenever she gets beaten up, and how people should not blame their boyfriends for beating them up, and it's their fault. It's always the woman's fault because they're the ones who are wrong. And she went on, and I remember my first thought to that was, what is wrong with this girl? But then I realized that I think society kind of has two sides to it, and the double standards that society sets. I get how she brought up that, because guys are taught to be strong, don't cry. When something happens, you must act physically. Girls are more, how are you emotionally? How are you feeling? Not like, go and sort yourself out. No, talk about it. So she's like, I just believe that my boyfriend needs to hit me when I'm wrong so that I know that I'm wrong. And I was just there like, no. But then I was like, but that's kind of what everybody's saying, but not in that way. But that's how it could be perceived. So I was wondering how a double standard is kind of hurting society, because there are a lot of interpretations about stuff, and why are double standards there when we want to have one way and one denotation of a word or a phrase or a meaning?
To answer the question, I mean, I think the first thing that comes to mind for me is, who is society? You are society. Everyone in this room is part of society. And yet we're so quick to point a finger and say, no, it's everyone else's fault. It's what everyone else thinks. Think about your own relationships, for instance. How many times have maybe a guy cries in your classroom? Or someone, a male person or a female person does something. And you're like, oh, that's so girly. Oh my gosh, that's so manly. Because we are reinforcing those same stereotypes that we so want to fight against and we judge other people for doing. And there's a quote that comes to mind which says, don't judge someone because they sin differently from you. Just because that girl was able to articulate the fact that she has been affected in a certain way by what society, which is all of us in essence, has put out, everyone's quick to judge her, but we're not being introspective enough. And I think everything at the end of the day, which is kind of relates to what I was talking to you about early on, everything relates to yourself. You need to reach a certain point within yourself where you get beyond what society puts out, what the rest of the world, even if you're not the cool kid. I mean, I always talk about not being the cool kid. I was never the cool kid. I always did things that were not cool. And that's okay. It's okay to not be the cool kid. It's okay to be whatever you want to be and own that. And we cannot always point fingers. Sometimes you need to point to yourself first and then look at the rest of the world. And charity really starts at home and within. And I think we need to deal with ourselves in the way that we interact in the school system, in varsity, in high school, when we leave school, when we're at home, and also articulating our grievances, because as much as we're able to say, oh no, what those people are doing, what society is doing is really, really bad, do we, on a day-to-day basis? For instance, I've started something where I hate it when men whistle at me, because firstly, I find it very disrespectful. And like I said, I'm a feminist. So I've started a thing which, firstly, of course, I'm a female, I'm aware of my limitations within society, so I will not advertently turn around and be like, stop doing that. But I will give you a stare. I have a dead stare. So I will turn around and give a dead stare to say, that is not okay. And that's my retaliation, that's my stand. That's me standing up for myself and saying, this is not okay. And we need to start dealing with kind of the communities that we work in and that we live in to end these kind of preconceived notions of what is right, what is wrong, what is male, what is female, and start working on that slowly. And I think that's how societies change. And everything in the world, media even, should be taken with a grain of salt. I'm a huge advocate for the media, but as much as I read Elle magazine, I'm not going to read everything in Elle magazine and think, oh my gosh, now I have to be this girl who's represented in Elle magazine. When I was younger, sure, maybe I thought that. But at the end of the day, it's kind of getting to a point of self-awareness and also awareness of your community.
Okay, all right. Yeah, I was about to say the involvement of fathers in a girl's life. It also helps in terms of what is the right way of the treatment from the boyfriend or from the husband. Because like if you grow up in a family or in a society where fathers always beat their children if they do wrong, then you have that perception that if I do something wrong, it's okay for my boyfriend to beat me up. Then like the program that would be that are put in place to undo or like change that perception. If you're a girl and you come from a society that thinks that it is okay for a boyfriend or for a husband to beat me up, and then you are like part of the program that deals with that situation to say it's not okay for a guy or for a father to beat up a child if they do something wrong, then it changes the whole perception around issues like that.
Well, I've answered the question to ask, but I was thinking okay, considering the changes we now see in society, where in terms of places in the workforce, either men or women occupy similar jobs, do you think, based on this equity or equality, they should all be treated the same, either workplace, at home, or in terms of general courtesy? Do you think that men and women should be treated the same? Is it either of you?
Yeah. I think that it is okay for men and women to be treated the same in the workplace. However, it does depend on the situation sometimes. I think that as people, like depending on the evolution theory, people are born with like different natures. As boys and girls, we have different ways of like we grow up with different ways. I don't know how to explain this in a way that you would understand it, but then, like, I think that, for example, as women, we are nurturing in our nature. Like, we are people that are able to take care of situations and be able to be caring. And then men are made to be providers and protectors. And then, like, in the workplace, you as a guy, you can be able to stay away from your family and take care of things in the workplace. However, for women, even if I want to do that, I can be in the workplace for a long time and take care of things at work. But then if my friend, for example, or my child suffers from something, that is going to affect me at work because like I am caring in nature and like I want a nature situation there. So I think it depends on the situation.
I think another perspective on that, and kind of to elaborate on what you just said, is, I mean, it is very much situational, and it boils down to the individual. I think certainly in some instances, in many instances in the workplace, men and women should be treated the same. But in the same breath, I'd like to think of myself as a neo-feminist because I believe that there are innate things for women. For instance, I'm on my period once a month. Okay, it's something that people don't like to discuss. I'm on my period once a month. I have certain needs that my male colleague will not need. So innately, I will need something else, something different. And biologically, it will be something else that happens with a man once a month. Or what? I don't know what happens with me once a month. I think there's a male period that we're just not talking about. Scientifically, maybe it hasn't been discovered yet. But so these are different things that need to be discussed, need to be kind of fine-tuned in a way. And I think we are on the road to that. But at the same, to the most basic things, I mean, when it comes to paychecks and like who has leave, if my husband decides to, because we're both working, for instance, we're in the workplace together, and we're in the same level of work or whatever, and I have a child, I'm not naturally expected to take leave. He can take leave too if he wants to. Maybe he's just that kind of guy who loves kids. I happen to love kids, so I would probably want to, but I think it's a personal choice, and whatever personal choice you make should be respected. And I think that's what it boils down to at the end of the day, is that whatever choice you make as a human being, if you decide, actually, as a man, yeah, I work, but I want to take time off to go look after my kids. No one should look down on you or think, oh no, you're not manly enough suddenly because now you want to feed your 2-year-old. Of course, that's okay, that's up to you. And I think we should be given the same liberties, but we should also understand the little intricacies that make us different, because we are different at the end of the day in some ways. So yeah, I hope that answered your question.